Hi, my name is Chris Collier. I am the host of Conquer with Chris, the podcast you don't want to miss. I have a very wonderful guest today. I have Nachole Johnson. Welcome to the show, Nachole.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Chris.
My pleasure. Let the people know a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, so I'm into a lot of things. So I am a nurse practitioner by profession, but I also have two businesses, and I am a published author of about 30 books now. So I do a lot.
Wow, 30 books.
Yeah,
I've got one published, one.
it's okay. That first one's the hardest. So you got that done.
Yeah, you know what? I self-published it. And when I say self-published, it went down to the local copy place. I made like 150 copies.
Wow.
Expensive.
Yeah, that's expensive. So yeah, all my books are self-published as well. But even still, that first book is the hardest, and then it gets easier after that. You learn your processes and everything else, and it just makes everything quicker.
Great. And what part of the country you're in?
I am in Texas. I'm in a suburb of Houston, actually, called Sugarland.
Oh, okay. I've heard of Sugarland.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Matter of fact, I went by Houston. How many years ago was it? About 5 years ago. I'm away to Austin.
Okay.
So yeah, Houston's a great place, thriving area, and Austin also is. That whole area, it seems up and coming, like a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that wasn't pretty cool was our ice storm a couple of weeks ago with no electricity and water. So.
Well, and the hurricane you had.
Yeah, the hurricane kind of pales into comparison at the end and in the cold when it's 18 degrees outside.
That's Michigan weather. That's where I'm originally from, so I understand.
Yeah.
You guys weren't really prepared for that. So tell the people a little bit about your journey. You're a nurse, you said, and your path into entrepreneurship, thought leadership.
Yeah. So I've been a nurse for a total of 20 years. I'm a nurse practitioner now. I've been a nurse practitioner for 7. But I will tell you, way back when, I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I just didn't know how to make it happen. And I didn't know that I could do that. I'll tell you, when I was a kid at 12, 13, I had instead of selling lemonade, I sold popsicles, and I babysat and did all these other things. But the thing that society tells you to do is to go to school, get an education, get a job, work for somebody else, retire when you're 70, and that's it. So they don't really push entrepreneurship, when you're growing up and learning that. So I've always had, as a nurse, I've always had a job on the side. And I started my nursing business in 2014. And that's where the books started coming, and I create content for nurses and things to help them with education if they want to become a nurse practitioner or if they want to actually start their own business. So that's kind of where my entrepreneurship journey started. Right now, I am a full-time entrepreneur. COVID has changed a lot of things for people, for good or bad. In my case, it has been positive. So I had been thinking about going ahead and taking the leap to become a full-time entrepreneur for a while. And when COVID hit, it just so happened that, I was in the process of saving for this leap I was going to take. But when COVID hit, it turned out that I actually got furloughed a few months earlier. And so even though it was a few months earlier and I didn't have all my money in place, I'm like, I'm just going to do it. So I have been in full-time entrepreneurship since April of last year. Things are growing, and I've started another business, and that's getting off. And so I'm happier now than I ever was, and I'm just now realizing that I did not listen to my younger self. And had I listened to my younger self, I probably could have had this a long time ago.
That's interesting because we share several parallels. Like, I was a newspaper boy, right? So I delivered newspapers. That was my entrepreneur debut, and I mowed lawns and did things too. So that's funny. You said your younger self, because like in my mind when I was delivering newspapers, I had this thing that said I'm going to retire when I'm 30. Well, I'm a little bit past 30 now.
Yeah, my goal was 40.
No, I'm 48, but the thing is like when you miss that deadline, like it didn't really impact me, but what it did is made me realize how I didn't listen to myself. In some, I let other voices get in my head. So
Mhm.
I want you, because you've been through that and you have a little bit different perspective than I do. I want you to be able to talk to that person who's had some entrepreneur, maybe they sold Pokemon cards or whatever the case may be, along the way in their entrepreneur journey, and they didn't listen to themselves either. So how to get back on track.
Oh, yeah. So, what happened as a result of me not listening to myself and holding back all those feelings for years because I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing. I am a productive member of society. I'm going to work 5 days a week. Got a boss. All this other stuff that everyone tells you is perfectly normal. So, because of that, and as a nurse, I've had many jobs over the years, each job felt weird. So even though I liked it for a little bit, something was off. And it took a lot of soul searching for me to realize that, okay, it's not the job, it's me. Something is off because I need to do something different. And I will tell you that, I was making great money at the peak of my career. And, as an entrepreneur, you don't have that salary every 2 weeks guaranteed, blah, 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 right out the gate. You have to work to build it up. But I can tell you how much happier I am now and how much more freedom I have. And what I would tell somebody is if you are in a position where you're in a job and something just doesn't feel right, maybe you switch into another company or whatever, and it just doesn't feel right, maybe you need to look a little deeper and see what actually would make you happy. Because it took me a while to figure this out. I'm a smart person, but like I said, just going along with society. This is right. This is respectable. In a lot of areas, it's not respectable to quit your job and start a business. People don't seem to look at that as anything, serious. They like, oh my gosh, she's starting a business, whoop-de-doo.
In the
But when
middle of
you,
a pandemic.
oh yeah. Of course, she's crazy. And another thing is, it's just being a nurse, because you get a lot of pushback from other nurses. Is that you're a nurse, you can do anything in whatever field, you can change industries. You make such good money. Why would you want to do that? And so people give you a guilt trip being a nurse. And then on top of that, you're taking care of patients. And so they kind of put it like, well, you need to be taking care of patients first before yourself, which is totally not true, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So I just want to put it out there that it's completely possible. And if, being in a 9 to 5 is not happy, if it's not making you happy, then take the leap. I mean, if you're determined enough, you'll find a way to make things happen.
I heard a quote today, and I think it applies. It said, if you're doing something you're not passionate about it, when you hit a bump in the road, something gets hard, you're not going to want to do it anymore because you're not passionate. Passion is the backup generator to run your system,
Oh
whatever it is
yeah.
you're doing. So if you're not passionate about something, you're
Oh
going to
yeah.
quit when it's time to fear or fight, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna say, entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted either. And you have to go into it knowing that things aren't going to be perfect all the time, and that you're going to have to work your way up the ladder, just like you did with your career. But, once you get to a certain point, it is very rewarding.
So you made that transition during the pandemic, and you're starting to see the fruits of your labor now, and you feel more fulfilled. So how's it going for you now?
Yeah. So what's funny, as a full-time nurse practitioner working, I did not have a lot of time to work on my business. And that's another thing. You might get to the point where you're working full-time and you've got your business on the side, and you aren't able to scale simply because you don't have the time. You may have the extra money because you have that job, but you don't have the time to put into it that it actually needs. So me having the time to put into it has actually grown profits. And I've had more people reach out to me. Things are going really well. It's still not as far as, I'm not at the very top yet, but it's getting there. And the thing about it is another thing that I did is when you're working on something on the side, you also don't have time to work on the business that much, but you don't have time to learn. And the reason I'm saying that is because as a nurse, you have to go through continuing education on a yearly basis and everything else. You need to do the same thing as a business owner. You need to be continually learning. You need to continually be able to pivot because, 2020 showed us that a lot of people had to pivot because they were laid off, they were fired. Something happened. They had to move their businesses online that were all brick and mortar. So that was the year of the pivot. And what you need to be doing is making sure you're continually educating yourself to bring quality to the people that you are actually serving in your business. So I did invest a lot in continuing education for my business last year as well. And I'm seeing, obviously benefits from that simply because I didn't have the time to do that before.
Wow, that's wonderful. I think another thing is being someone who I'm bivocational, or yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and have a job. I think sometimes you do spend time learning something, but then you have to go back to your job, and when you come back, you have to reset that mindset. And sometimes you've forgotten. You have to go back halfway back to the training, and it can be a little bit cumbersome.
Yes.
If you're not disciplined.
That's true. And that is true. And you can also learn a whole lot faster because you want to consume this information to obviously help yourself and your business grow. So if this is something that you want to do, you're not going to lollygag around and take, 3 or 4 months to go through this course that you could have finished in a couple of weeks. If you are determined and you want to learn something, you are going to do it. You're going to figure out the processes, the systems, learn from people who have done things before you. So therefore you don't waste time and money reliving mistakes that could have been avoided.
What's some of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome once you got out of the, other than the pandemic, once you got out of the job and were able to do this, what were some of the obstacles you had to overcome?
So the obstacles, obviously, it's a shock with your income at first, right? So you need to make sure you've set yourself up with savings if you have that opportunity. So I do have savings and I set myself up that way, but you can't easily spend, for personal things the way you could when you had a job and you were working this on the side. So that's a mindset. A mind shift that you need to make is that I can't freely spend all this money until I have significant income coming in from my business. Another thing is getting your books together. So I've never really had to, really look at my books that detailed and, how much taxes I'm going to have to pay and how much I'm actually profiting. My inventory that I have to get. You have to look at all this and make sure that things are in line and you're writing everything down and keeping everything on track with your numbers. So that was a big shift as well, because I didn't really do that. Like I have residual income coming in. I never really looked at my numbers. I'm like, oh, okay. But now as a full-time business owner, you have to take all that in consideration and be completely serious about it.
Correct. And I think some of the solopreneurs or the people who aren't licensed or professional, I would say mindset's the biggest thing. Like knowing that you can do it, knowing that you deserve it, knowing that the price you set probably still isn't high enough.
Yes.
We all have this thing like, okay, I'm going to create my course. I'm going to charge, you know what? They're charging $800 for this course, so I'm going to charge $350 because I want to. Don't charge $350. There's a reason why it's $800. There's a reason behind the pricing. Find out why they priced it that much. Go through their funnel, go through their systems and find out why.
Yeah, yes, most definitely. Pricing is a big deal because you don't want to undercut yourself. And people looking in are going to say, well, I guess they're not really that professional because their course is that cheap. It could go both ways. And some people could say, oh, it's cheap, let me jump on it. But, if you make it feel like it's exclusive, then people will respect it.
That's true. That's true. I've seen both. It goes both ways, like you said. But I would tend to err on the side of being a little bit, as long as you feel you're still bringing value, raise your prices.
Yeah,
Because
most definitely.
you don't want someone looking at you and saying, I do it, but the price is too low. I don't want to, they're like you said, they're cheap. They're not serious about their business. They must not really know what they're talking about. So they're just trying to sell a course. And and you don't want to do the other thing either, where you're selling something that's worth 10,000 for 50,000, because then they're like, oh, they're just trying to get my money.
Yes.
There's a fine balance.
Yeah.
So how can people find you?
Well, I am easily findable on the web due to my unique spelling of my name, for one. So a quick Google search will bring up a lot of my material. Other than that, my business is Renursing EDU. That's RENURSING EDU.com.
And the link will be in right here on the screen. Right
Yes. And my studio, my branding studio, is Studio 822. So anybody interested, they can find me on either website. They can email me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much everywhere.
That's the great thing about social media. You can be everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
Which brings me to today's plug. I'm plugging my course, Social Media Syndication. How to use social media to syndicate yourself so you can be everywhere at once and get your message out to a broader, bigger audience. Check out the link below in the description. And so, Nachole, what do you have to offer the people? You said you have a branding studio. So how do you help brand people?
Yeah, so I have a signature system, a brand strategy RX. So I can speak to the healthcare people, and we do a brand script instead of a brand story. Yeah, isn't that funny? I know.
No, but it fits your industry. That's smart. You're taking a red ocean and making it blue. I love it.
Yes. So that's what I do at the brand studio. We do websites. We do marketing materials. We're going into video production now because video is big for advertising and everything else.
And content.
And content. We're doing that. And as far as Renursing EDU is concerned, for nurses who are interested in becoming nurse practitioners, I have a ton of educational materials there. I have my books, and for nurses wanting to actually start their own business, I have information there as well. And if they want to make things easier for them, I have website templates that they can just plug their information in, so they don't have to worry about the whole tech side of building a website for their new business.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's
wonderful.
And do you have a favorite quote?
A favorite quote? You know what? It's not a quote, it's a tagline. It's Nike, just do it. Just do it.
And insert my man. Oh man.
Just do it, because I'm just that type of person that if I have an idea in my head and I start overthinking it, I'm like, this is silly. Just do it. Just put yourself out there, do something different and see what happens. Like this year I started my YouTube channel. I hate being on camera, but I'm doing it.
Thanks for being on camera today.
It's okay.
I want to thank my guest, Nachole Johnson, and all of you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, depending on what platform you're on. Thank you so much. Have a great day.